in your car and you keep making payments on it because now you don't have that $800 a month payment hanging over your head, is your credit going to improve, and what could it look like between years 4 and year 7, where the other option was bankruptcy that just basically haunts you almost forever. Some of you have heard of debt negotiation, how it works. Maybe some of you haven't. But our lesson today is going to be going over kind of the, if you look at previous episodes on debt, and as we kind of talked about the different levels of aggressiveness with debt, I guess we could call it. The least aggressive is just organizing it, just getting it organized in a better way. And then, of course, the very last step, in my opinion, kind of that last straw, there's really nothing else we can do, not giving up too early. I think too many people do that, maybe because they just don't know what their options are. But that last one, kind of that 5th, 6th level of debt is going to be bankruptcy. And so if at all possible, people want to avoid bankruptcy for a lot of reasons. But then, of course, there are exceptions to those reasons. You know, there's medical expenses. There's things like that. But there's someone that just has out of control spending that then goes and files bankruptcy because of out of control spending. That's a little different, in my opinion. Okay, there's been people that have argued with me about that, and well this and well that, and well, you know, most people that have a well that or well this or yeah but mentality, how many successful people do you know that have a yeah but mentality and have a whole bunch of money saved? It's just not very common. So debt negotiation or debt settlement is that step right before bankruptcy. Now, the things that people avoid bankruptcy for is because it's going to be on their credit for years and years and years and years. It basically ruins a lot of the credit they have. It's extremely difficult to for different positions in the financial industry, banking industry, getting into business, different things, getting certain loans when there's a bankruptcy on somebody's record, and it's becoming a more commonly asked question on applications for certain things. So what debt negotiation is kind of that step before, right before bankruptcy. It doesn't hurt our credit as much, but it does hurt our credit. Okay, so here's the concept. So here's me, and I've got a bunch of debt. I've got debt payments to Visa, so Wells Fargo, MasterCard. I've got American Express, my house. I've got a car, student loans, an overdraft on my checking account, let's say. So I've got all these debts. I've got all these payments. Okay, so we pay $1,000 to our house. We have $200 going to this Visa. We've got $100 going to Wells Fargo. We've got $300 going to MasterCard. $100 going to American Express. $100 going to the overdraft. $350 going to a car, and $75 going to a student loan. And then if we were to look at balances on all of these, house, let's say we owe $200,000. On the Visa, we owe $10. On the Wells Fargo, say it's a personal loan of some kind, we owe $8. MasterCard, say $15,000 to $16,000 there. American Express, we owe $5,000. Overdraft, we owe $5,000. The car, we owe $18,000. And the student loans, we owe $20,000. Okay, so we're making all these payments, and it's obviously a burden. We don't like it. Lots of payments, lots of debt, and so there's a couple of different things that we need to understand before we get into how debt negotiation works. So one of the first things we want to look at is what of this debt is collateralized or secured debt, is what it's called, and what of it is not collateralized, which another way of saying that is unsecured debt. So the secured or the collateralized debt is going to be the house and the car. Okay? And then the unsecured debt is going to be Visa, Wells Fargo, MasterCard, American Express, overdraft. And then the student loan actually is kind of its own type of deal. Is it's not necessarily collateralized because they're not going to come and take your degree away, but it's also not considered unsecured debt that can be consolidated with other unsecured debt or could be enrolled into a debt negotiation program. So the payments that I have are 2 plus 1 is 300, plus 300 is 600, 700, 800. So my total unsecured debt payments are $800 per month, and the total debt, so that's my payment, and then the total unsecured debt that I have is 10, plus 15 is 25, plus that is 35, and 8 is going to be $43,000. Okay, so my unsecured debt is $43,000. My payments to that unsecured debt is $800 a month. So the question is, as people look at their debt, is how do I eliminate debt faster? How do I use the tools that exist to eliminate my debt in a faster way? And so there's all the other different approaches that obviously we're not going over today. But in debt negotiation, there's a couple of approaches. There's the way that you can do yourself. So I guess it'd be more than a couple, but you can do it yourself, and you can try that way. You can actually hire certain attorneys that will do this for you, but then they'll either charge an upfront fee of some kind that, like, you'd actually have to write them a check, an upfront amount, or you put them on some sort of retainer, just depending on how long it's going to take to eliminate the debt. Or there's debt negotiation companies that actually do it for you, and then as they do it, they have a negotiated fee that they tell you what it is. It's not like some secret thing of what the fee is that they just calculate into eliminating this debt. So how the debt negotiation process works is, you think about this, is, well, first of all, let's go into this, is the only debt, if you're working with a debt negotiation company, that can be enrolled into the approach or the program is the unsecured debt. So you're looking at credit cards, overdraft, personal loans, signature loans, payday loans, like you go to the place that has like 400% interest per month. I don't know how those places aren't totally illegal, but they're not. You can enroll medical debt into this, dental, medical. There's even divisions of companies, one of the ones that I've been working with for years, and it depends on the state that you're in, where they even have a separate company that works with you if you have any tax liens, unpaid taxes, or you have back taxes. That's the word I was looking for, back taxes. Okay, if you have a tax lien on your house because of something, they're maybe not going to help with that. Okay, but if you owe back taxes, okay, to the IRS. So what they do is they say, okay, here's your total debt, and you have to think about it from these credit card companies' point of view. Is they've been getting this $800 a month, and what would happen? Total, they've been getting that. If, let's look at the smallest balance here, American Express has been getting $100 a month from you for a while. You owe them $5,000, and what if you just stopped paying them? If you stopped paying American Express, are they going to come take anything? No. And before we dive into this, am I recommending this as a plan to everyone? Not necessarily. If people are out of control with their spending and have really not had any speed bumps in the road, and maybe this isn't something that I talk to them about, but this is just a tool that exists for the right situation. I have plenty of people that will look at this and say, oh, I just don't feel good about this. This is debt that I accumulated. I need to pay it all off. Well, I can appreciate people thinking that way. It is debt that they've accumulated. It is debt that they owe. but here's a question to kind of flip it on its head. Do the credit card companies need to charge 28% interest? Do they need to charge 33? Do they need to charge 18? And so while you do owe this debt, if you look at the total you'll pay over your life compared to what you actually owe, you are going to pay off what you owe pretty much. In the long run, they would have charged you 3, 4, 5 times what you owed anyway, right? But again, this is a tool, not necessarily to be abused or used for the wrong reason, okay? So that being said, here's how debt negotiation works. You owe $5,000 to American Express. You're paying them $100. American Express has settled with other people at 60 cents on the dollar if they can come up with the money up front. You know, if you're in the service industry at all, you fix washing machines, you do anything like that, where you bill them and they have like 30 days to pay you, right? If they come to you early, and hospitals do this, where, hey, we will charge you this much, but if you pay us in a lump sum up front this much, we'll give you this massive discount. So that's kind of how this needs to be looked at. Okay, so the method is, if we stop, and again, listen all the way through this before it's like, what? Why would you do that? That would kill your credit, et cetera, et cetera. Well, if we're like on the verge of bankruptcy, let's say, how much do we care about our credit? Because what do we use credit for? We use credit to buy new things on debt. Does this person need more debt? Do people need more debt? No, we want to eliminate the debt, and that's what they're hoping to keep a good credit score for. Some people get a little bit too focused on the things they don't need to focus on, like, well, my credit score, my credit score, my credit score. Well, your debt sucks right now, so how about we figure out that first and worry about your credit score later, right? Anyway, so there's a mini rant for the day. Just people are just so funny sometimes. Anyway, so what happens in a debt negotiation program is to kind of prove a hardship, but then also to increase the negotiation power, is all of the payments would stop. The individual would stop making all these payments. Now, as you can imagine, yes, that does some bad things to your credit. The second thing it does is Visa, Wells Fargo, MasterCard, American Express, you start getting phone calls from them, obviously, because they want their money. They want their money. Send us the money, send us the money, send us the money. Right? But then what starts happening is they're not getting any money at all. And so a little while with no money makes them want money sooner. Okay? So the companies that do this, that I'm the most familiar with, what happens is they know Visa, Wells Fargo, MasterCard, American Express, and Overdraft, they have a rough guesstimate or idea because of maybe past experience or what they think they can do or other clients that they've worked with, is what they can settle for or what they can how they can settle with each company. Okay, so let's just say that they feel that they can settle for 60 cents on the dollar. Okay, 60 cents on the dollar. And so if it's $43,000, and I'm going to have to get out a calculator. Sure, I should have been more mathematically prepared, but hey, this is just a live lesson. So if they think they can settle for 60 cents on the dollar, we take 43,000 times 0.6, and that's 25,800. So they say, okay, we think we can settle for 60 cents on the dollar, which would be this, and then they divide that over a certain amount of months that they feel that they need to get all this debt negotiated. And a lot of the companies, or the company that I specifically work with, their shortest program is 40 months, or excuse me, 42 months. And so 42 months of this approach would lower the payment to $600. Okay, that would be the total payment. And what this number is telling me is that we were a little bit more generous than we should have been on what the actual payments would be to each of these debts. The monthly payment would probably be a little bit higher making this probably closer to 1,000, but we get the idea. So what happens is the 800 stops going to these companies. They start getting really nervous, whether you're doing it yourself, working with an attorney, or working with a company that does debt negotiation and debt settlement. What they do is they now have you set up a bank account. So you set up this bank account in the name of a trust that you deposit this money into, and it starts to accumulate and accumulate and accumulate and accumulate until, let's say, you get $2,500 in it or $3,000 in it. And really, that's like 4 months, 4.5 months. And then what the company does is they call American Express, and they say, hey, American Express, you've probably noticed, and this is just loose dialogue. I'm not saying this is exactly what they say or exactly how it works, but it just gives you the idea. They call American Express, and they say, hey, American Express, you probably noticed that Mr. Client has not been sending you any money for the last however long, and we are negotiating this debt on their behalf or whatever they say, blah, 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 and we've got $2,500 right now if you'll accept it and settle this account. And one, because of what they've done in the past with other clients. Two, that they haven't been getting any money for months and months and months. A lot of the time, they accept the settlement. So then the $2,500 goes to American Express, and then they send a letter to the client that says this debt has been settled, paid off, done, over. Cross that one out. Then the $600 keeps going into this account, trust account in the name of the client, not in the name of the company that's doing it or the attorney, but in the client's name. And then they do the same thing again with the overdraft, and they do the same thing with the Wells Fargo, and they do the same thing with the MasterCard and the Visa until all of them are paid off. And so, like I said, 42 months is the longest program that can be done. But what's kind of cool about it is if the client wants, they can actually deposit more money into this bank account to increase the balance of it faster to settle the debts quicker. And so what's really interesting is after this 42-month period is over, which, by the way, if you know anyone that's ever filed bankruptcy or you yourself have, how long does bankruptcy stay on your credit in a lot of circumstances? 7 years, right? And so this is shorter than that. And from this point forward, if all of these debts are settled, gone, negotiated, and off of your credit, and from that point forward, you've got your student loan and your house and your car, and you keep making payments on it because now you don't have that $800 a month payment hanging over your head, is your credit going to improve, and what could it look like between years 4 and year 7, where the other option was bankruptcy that just basically haunts you almost forever, right? And so that's how debt negotiation or debt settlement works. Am I saying it's the best option for everyone? As I said, no. Am I saying that people should just run up a bunch of credit cards and use this? Definitely not. But for somebody that is looking at their situation and their debt is just absolutely killing them, or there was a job loss, or there was medical, or there was, you know, something like that, or trying to get on their feet or whatever, this could be an option for them. Again, it's a negotiation between the credit card companies and the client, or a representative on behalf of the client to either eliminate debt quicker, reduce total monthly payments required to the debt, or potentially both, right? The client could keep paying this higher payment to get it paid off faster, do a shorter program, or maybe they just need a few extra $100 a month. You know, in past episodes that we've looked at, maybe this $200 that's freed up here could mean that they could start a college fund for one of their kids. Maybe it could mean that maybe the primary wage earner doesn't have any life or disability insurance, or maybe no health insurance because they just don't make enough money. Their company doesn't provide it. They have no health insurance. They're going to get penalized for that. Well, if they have the right income, and we'll talk about this on another episode, but if their income falls in the right spot, there are health insurance programs they could get with that kind of money. And so there's a lot of different things that can be done with freed up money. But again, our Impact School of Money class for today was on debt negotiation and debt settlement. Hope that there was some value in what you learned today, in how these programs work. Of course, this is being recorded in November of 2018. Legislation changes, laws change state by state, depending on what's available. But these are just the tools that exist in the financial industry. Thank you for joining us on this special Thanksgiving week episode of the Impact School of Money. My name is Adam Davis. Thank you for joining us for class today. Class dismissed.